business. So I found someone else to do that, and I remained a journalist, which is why the business still goes on, because if I had tried to manage the business, we would have shut down after 6 months. Therefore, I think the first thing when you start anything is to understand what you're capable of and what you're not capable of.
Knowing your strengths and playing to your strengths, then I believe that must be something that's really important for more women to focus on. But do you feel there are modern day struggles that women need to contend with at the workplace? I know it may not entirely be gender-based, Swarna, but like Danya said, she knew what she had and what she didn't, and she found an alternative to get around what she didn't. But are there other challenges that you think women should keep in mind while taking the leap into entrepreneurship? What do you think they are?
So there are definitely gender-based struggles, right? And as a woman, so just before this, we were talking, briefly, Danya and I were talking, and exactly we were talking about this. And she said one point that really hit the nail. She said modern day struggles, actually, it doesn't, these are the struggles that have always been there for women. It's just that more women come out to become entrepreneurs against these struggles, and they find solutions to these challenges. So first one is this social norm of being the primary caregiver.
Right.
Right? So traditionally, these are the gender-based rules a man and a woman has. And now, when a woman also steps in as an entrepreneur, and there are pressures from running a business, but then there are also this equally the important role of running a family. And if she doesn't find a support there, then I think that's a huge challenge,
Right.
Judith.
But support is something, that is also, correct me if I'm wrong, but it comes from a lot of privilege. There are women who have the backing of their families, who have all the support they need, because I think it is almost, in a sense, understood that they will take over. And is that going to be a crucial component to determining how successful a woman is as an entrepreneur? Maybe I can ask you that, Preeta. You come from a family that has been in the business of running education. Do you think that support is almost a given in your case, wherein when it comes to other women who probably don't come from so much backing, support is something they probably go out and earn and struggle for? Does that privilege of backing almost always make a huge difference?
First person to ask, because I'm not married, I don't have family, I don't have children to take care of. But seeing from my mom's experience, it definitely makes a big difference. And as a part of my PhD thesis, I had also gone around and interviewed a lot of women who became entrepreneurs. So for them, they said this social support system was definitely one of the big facilitators. And most of these people started out after their kids started going to school and kind of like settled down, and then they had a lot of free time in their hands to start. So yes, it is a big privilege.
No doubt. And I have to ask you that, Danya, in your everyday journalism, and I know this as someone who's followed your work, I think a lot of the news reporting that happens is about how privilege impacts everyday life, right? Even perspectives change so much when there's an element of privilege involved. And I think to get to the heart of the story, it's important to actually talk to people who don't quite have that privilege. As an entrepreneur, do you feel the support that we keep talking about and keep harping about every day is almost always a product of privilege? Would that necessarily be the case?
Education, it is not just about whether you have money, it's also about what caste you belong to, what class you belong to. There are so many kinds of privileges, right? For example, I used to feel when I grew up in Kerala, in a town called Palakkad. When I came to Chennai for the first time to study in Asian College of Journalism, I felt I was not as privileged as a student who had come from Bombay or Bangalore or even from Chennai. But later I realized that I am indeed privileged because I am from an oppressor caste or upper caste family. I studied in English medium school, English medium college, and there are certain privileges that the fact that my family could afford my education and my caste brought me, right? So we in India, the problem is we say, oh, I don't believe in caste, I don't believe in class. It does not go away simply because you don't believe in something. You have to have these conversations. For example, one book I have mandatorily made my son read is this book that a colleague of mine, Soumya, wrote about Ambedkar. It's a children's book which shows caste as a ladder, and basically someone who's from a lowered caste or an oppressed caste is born in the last rung of that ladder. It is not his or her fault, but you are born there. and someone who is on top of the ladder. So how do they coexist? What can they do? So I think everyone has to be told, children included, about their privilege. And privilege in fact has even changed the way I see things. When we learn journalism, we are told that like for example, Jude is a minister and you are working for, you are a person working in the fields. We are told, okay, you are doing a strike because your salary has not come. We were simply told, take your coat, take Jude's coat, put both out together, and the audience will decide whether you are saying the truth or Jude is saying the truth. That's the journalism that was taught to me. But today I question that journalism because Jude is way more powerful than you are. Jude has much more privilege than you have. So I cannot be putting A and B in one pedestal and telling the audience, now you decide. So I owe it to my reader also to tell them, who is the privileged person in this? Who's the majoritarian? Who's the autocrat? Who has class and caste by his or her side? So I think privilege forms a huge part of what we are and where we are even sitting today.
Absolutely. And I think it's important for every one of us born into privilege to also check our privilege when we go about talking about entrepreneurship, talking about what we can do better of and what we can do more of. But quick takeaways from three of you ladies before we take the conversation forward. Since we're all about women in business, let's hear it from each of you. Let me start with you. What do you think, Preeta, is maybe the one mantra that women can follow to make it big in the world of business, in entrepreneurship? What's that one mantra that you think that they can do more of?
It might sound very simple, but I think it's resilience and don't give up. Because nobody is born an entrepreneur. Like, we don't have a gene for entrepreneurship in our body. It's all about the experiences and the things we learn as we undertake our journey. And I think, as Danya pointed out, you should always focus on your cup of tea. Some things might come naturally to you while others may not. So instead of like getting worked up on why I'm not able to do this, just delegate that or outsource it to somebody who can do it better than you and focus on what you're good at.
All right. And Swarna, what do you think is the one mantra to making it big in business?
So this mantra is for all entrepreneurs and more so for women because we are glorified for multitasking. There is a Tirukural number 517, which says, Idanai Ivanal Ivan Mudikkum endraindu Adanai Avan Kanvidal, which basically says the power of delegation. You assess who can do what best and assign that particular task to that person, right? So this is for every entrepreneur because you cannot do everything. You cannot be everywhere. You cannot do everything. It is not humanly possible. And especially when a woman has to be in multiple places at the same time. And women are, I think, more perfectionists. They want to do everything themselves. They want to do everything so well. But no, it doesn't work that way. There's a huge stress on you. You just have to delegate.
Right.
And find the right person to do the job.
Everyone's following your lead. Delegate. Get someone else
Haven't
to
you
do.
seen those obnoxious Women's Day ad with a woman with 100 hands holding baby, then one
Almost as if it's
mixie,
an
then one
expectation.
broom and all that stuff. Yeah.
Correct. And we actually have glorified it. Even I have posted such a poster on Women's Day some few years back, and then I was wondering why. Why should you do that? So when Danya actually started the conversation about delegate, I thought, oh my God, she's a good entrepreneur and she doesn't even realize it, you know?
Maybe a few years later I'll say, I was an event with Swarna who told me that I'm actually an entrepreneur.
So what is the one mantra you followed while
So I
trying to...
completely agree with resilience and with delegation. I want to give a mantra which is a little out of the ordinary, is that don't go on guilt trips. You know, like your child telling you, my son has this thing of telling me, you never prioritize me, you're always doing your work. I'm like, yes, work is also my priority, right? So everybody around you is always trying to guilt trip you, saying, but you're not giving focus to this, you're not giving focus to that. Just do what you need to do.
You do you. Yeah. Let me just check that mic. Yeah.
Now it's fine. Yeah, so now in the 21st century, it's become common for women to be at the workplace, but the same gender role for men helping out with the housework, that hasn't become normal or stereotyped. Like, my
Men,
mom
are
goes
you
to the
listening?
office, but my dad never helps out with the kids at home or with anything else at home. So I think the day when that happens is when all the talks about gender equality have been achieved.
Right. So I think clearly there are mantras for women and there are some that men might do well to follow as well, at least in the pursuit of making better entrepreneurs of their significant others. But Are there pitfalls or mistakes that women tend to make in their entrepreneurship journey? Danya, if I can maybe start with you. Is there a mistake that you made that you perhaps look back and say, you know, I wish I could have done that differently? If that would to be the case, what would that be?
I don't know about being an entrepreneur and being a woman, but I think one pitfall I've noticed in other women entrepreneurs is that women don't talk money very strongly, I feel. Women don't demand money, women don't speak money. I don't know, maybe because we grew up like that. And I also feel like there is a regional difference there. Like South Indians are, in my opinion, it could be entirely wrong, but I feel we are way more reticent when it comes to speaking these things.
Right.
I don't know, maybe it's the way we grew up or whatever, or it's just my own
I
biased
think there's
perspective.
been a gender imbalance when it comes to managing finances at the home. And that perhaps took root, which is why I'm guessing more women are more reticent perhaps to talk money.
Yeah,
You correct me if I'm wrong.
and people don't like to speak money to women. Like the other day, I was interviewing actor Parvati, the Malayalam actor. She was saying that when she started out in movies, the producers wanted to ask who should they speak money to. So she said, me. So they said, no, but your father or manager. She said, me. I am acting, right? I will decide how much I should act for.
Right.
So people don't want to even speak to women about money, and women themselves are very reticent, I feel. I may be wrong completely.
All right, so speak more money, take charge of your finances. Something else that you feel women entrepreneurs should do more of, or maybe a mistake that people or women tend to make in their journey, Swarna?
A mistake most women do, and I have done it as well, not putting yourself first in terms of your needs or your health, both physical, mental, etc. See, running a business is not easy, Judith, and a business doesn't go like this. It goes like this. There are times when it is low, when you have difficulty financially or multiple challenges in business. So at those times when you're also stressed out at home, it takes really a toll on you. So you have to be more empathetic and sympathetic towards yourself as much as you are with others.
Right.
See, we talk about privilege. I'm sure that all of us here, we are really privileged, but there are problems for women entrepreneurs. For example, if they want to scale up their business, even the collateral, they will not have it in their own name. It will be on a male member's name. So you need to get the permission from that male member to give it, right? And once a woman becomes successful, starts seeing success, in some households, she is also sabotaged sometimes by demeaning statements or even physical violence. It's all reality.
Right.
So we cannot, there are so many things going on for women entrepreneurs, especially the smaller ones who do business out of work. So, but as a pitfall, as a mistake that I would like to correct, and I would like to tell other women entrepreneurs also, concentrate on yourself. You are most important.
Absolutely. And what's the one mistake, Preeta, that you feel women should avoid making in their journey?
I think women focus too much on their passion. Like that passion drives everything, but they should also, as Danya said, focus on the money part of it. They shouldn't like focus entirely on developing the best possible product or, making the most impact, because women mostly tend to be social entrepreneurs. They tend to care about the society, the environment, too many things, while sometimes they forget about focusing on the money or the financial aspect of it. They most often delegate it to the male co-founders, but sometimes doing that will kind of let you to lose the grip on the finances and makes you in a vulnerable position. And most often when you go to these VCs and when you pitch to them, when you're not confident about these numbers, you tend to lose out on the funding.
Absolutely. And in fact, the last point you said is something that I think most women founders and co-founders, in fact, talk to me about while I go about working on stories on the startup ecosystem, is that VC funding and, venture capitalists don't really take women co-founders as seriously as they do to their male counterparts. And, you also pointed out the example of actress Parvati, who had a producer ask her whom they should discuss finances with. Have you ever encountered a situation like that? Can I start with you, maybe, Danya? Have you ever had a situation where, you are a co-founder of what is a very successful media business, But to the
Nobody
external
wants to
world,
put money in the media. So I've never encountered this problem. I mean, it's only if people are willing to give money and they're like gender. Okay, are you a man, are you a male editor or female editor? Nobody wants to put money.
please pay for your news, sir.
Yeah,
This
everybody
comes-
become
this
members
comes
of
straight from
independent
Danya
news
Rajendran
media.
Belur.
But I have never faced this problem, Jude.
Okay,
When
okay.
I do, I will definitely come and
But,
tell you.
but do you have a situation where, let's say, a person you are interviewing, for instance, in fact, I think I remember an incident where I think Barka Dutt was interviewing Lalu Prasad Yadav, and he was passing her a compliment, or what he thought was a compliment, and said, "You're a very brave woman. In fact, I don't think you're a woman, I think you're a man." And the fact is, it seems like people are more programmed to take men more seriously than women. In 2023, do you still face that problem as a woman entrepreneur?
I don't face it personally. If anybody tells me that I am a brave woman, I will just lose it. But I know a lot of people who do face it, even in journalism. For example, for a long time, women were always given the health beat.
Yes.
The health beat, as you know, is one of the most important beats which we discovered during COVID, right? The pandemic. We were looking at health reporters to tell us what the hell is happening. But till then, health beat was a soft beat.
Yeah.
People were given social beat, or they would be given entertainment. But I mean, over the years, I have understood that these are really strong beats. Like, I would want a culture writer or an entertainment writer to tell me what is wrong with the pop culture around me, right? But in journalism, the men get the serious beats like politics, which is still very prevalent. There are so many surveys in journalism telling you that there are very few women editors. In fact, the number of women editors in Indian surveys have gone up because of people like me. Why? Because I started my own organization.
Yeah.
If I was working somewhere else, I would not have become editor.
Right.
I started with my own money, my own organization, so I'm an editor.
Yeah.
And there are many women like me who have started. So India really, not India, across the world in journalism, women do not reach decision-making powers. They are not in the decision-making boards. So that way, yes, we have the similar problems as the business sector does.
Right. And Swarna, what about you? I mean, coming from an illustrious business family and having that backing with you, did you ever have a situation where you've had an institution or an external player really treat you differently because you were a woman? Is that something that you encountered?
I have not personally encountered it, Judith. There is a lot of respect for women, from the banking sector and from the, everywhere that I went, I have always found respect. But see, the VCs and the funding organizations, they do a lot of research, okay, and they employ a lot of people who spend time on this. And see, we are in a forum talking about that women do have some disadvantages, challenges, and women to be a serious entrepreneur has to overcome those challenges, right? It shows how serious women are. And basically, mostly they follow rules. They are very conservative. So these are some of the positive things also. And specifically, government and non-government institutions offer funding only for women. That quota is also there. I think we need to use that out as well.
Yeah. And what about you, Preeta? Has it been smooth sailing or?
It has been smooth sailing, but there was this one particular incident where, we were kind of like trying to approach the Big Four to do a due diligence for us in case we go for funding or something, just to know where we stand. And a senior partner remarked saying, this is a kind of window dressing, like how we deck up a bride before she gets married. And it was like very objectifying and sexist for me, and I didn't know how to react because I was the only woman in that place. And these are all Big Four companies that have separate diversity and inclusion verticals and people to teach them all of that. And coming from that kind of a place was pretty shocking because you'd expect them to be like very educated and broad-minded.
Absolutely. I want to quickly take the scope of this discussion forward into, an area that enjoys a lot of discussion and spotlight, but I also know for a fact it polarizes people in terms of their opinions, and that is in terms of representation. Now, I know for a fact that, as per the Indian Constitution, in several walks of life, constitutionally, a lot of institutions are obliged to have reservations. Now, when it comes to gender, what do you think is the need of the hour? I know that women in parliament have been fighting for the longest time for their 33% reservation. In the corporate world, in the boardroom, do you think it is time for representation to be brought about in order to ensure that we have more female entrepreneurs? Let me start maybe with you, Preeta.
Yeah, definitely. So because I run a university, we have all these campus placements happening. So HR usually try to get around 40% women hired, but that is in the entry level. But when it goes to more like mid-management leadership roles, team leads and all of that, it reduces to about 15%.
And why?
Why? Because women have to sacrifice. For example, when they get married, they have to move to another city, so they lose their job. The guy wouldn't have to do the same. And the second break happens when they start to have children, right? So they're not able to progress to more significant leadership roles. And at the C-level suite, it's barely about 5%.
Right.
So I think reservation would definitely help, at least to get an entry, but the stay there would be guaranteed based on their capabilities.
Right, right. And Swarna, I have to ask you then. I mean, what Preeta just said is a huge eye-opener, right? It's one thing to get together and talk about representation, creating a niche, creating reservations so that we encourage more women. But when it comes to progress within that sphere as well, is it more about representation, or do you think mindsets have to change first? And do you think representation is important to change those mindsets in the first place?
I think it starts with the person, right? Reservations, representations can help, but whether you're a woman, you're a man, wherever you are, I think it all starts with the mind and your want, your desire, your dreams to succeed. It starts from the person. The other things are just a facilitation, which will find its way to the person who has the dream.
All right. Danya, where do you stand on this in the newsroom? I know for a fact that a lot of women work in the News Minute, and I think your gender balance is quite balanced as well.
It's getting skewed now. We have 30% men.
There you go.
Yeah. It used to be 20. Yeah. I'm a little upset about
So you're giving
it.
more opportunities to men folk.
No, I'm just
in the
kidding.
newsroom.
But no, it's not just about men and women anymore. It's okay. Now, one thing I have very strong feelings about is the fact that we use the word reservation, which in itself has given it a negative connotation in India.
Yes.
I feel we should only use the word affirmative action, because that is what reservation is. You are affirming it for a section of people who have been excluded from getting opportunities because of, you know, where they are born, how they are born, etc. Therefore, it is important that the entry level, right, what she was talking about, it is in every industry. For example, if you take a TV news channel, all the reporters on the ground will be women. But the moment you look for a debate show after 7 o'clock, it will mostly be men. Because it is only the lower ranks which you're filling with women journalists. But when it comes to your prime time, it's very few women. It is in every industry. And there are many reasons why women fall out. For example, a 33% reservation in parliament, or asking parties to give seats to women. What is wrong with that? 50% of your country is women, and you are not ready to give seats. You are not ready to give them representation, and you have all these myths. For example, I'll just quickly finish. When I was a young reporter, if I have no story, one story that everybody used to ask me to do is call up 5, like for example, your corporators are there, right? Women corporators. Call up the number. Invariably, the husband or the brother or the uncle or the father will pick up. And next day you write a story saying that women corporators don't do any job. The men pick up their phones. You call a male corporator, his uncle or his father or his son-in-law will pick up. Have you ever seen a story saying the chief minister of the state is controlled by his son or son-in-law, or any state? Or chief minister of some other state is controlled by his daughter or wife? Because even the media is sexist. We do not want women corporators there, so we continuously find these myths. Oh, women cannot perform well. If women are elected, then the men will do their jobs. Even men are not doing their jobs. Other people are doing their jobs for them. So it is at every level that we have to eliminate these stories and myths around women. And if we don't, which we have been unsuccessful at doing, let us have affirmative action. I want 33% women MPs to represent people in organizations like ours. It's no longer about women and men. It's about LGBTQ communities. We need people from queer communities. We also look at having more Muslims, more Dalits in our newsroom, because it is everybody's lived experiences. You cannot have just men and women anymore. It's more than that. Diversity has to be more inclusive.
And absolutely, and I think affirmative action is common parlance in the US, where it's been spoken of in place of reservation, which you pointed out can possess a negative connotation in the Indian context. But I still go back to what Preeta said about how, going up and rising up the ladder is something that continues to be a bit of a challenge, even though entry-level women, are of course encouraged. You give them a place. So I have to ask you, women who've been through it all. Let me start again with you, Danya. What are a few tips you think that our audience, or women who are watching, both here and also perhaps on social media, can take back home with them when it comes to shattering the glass ceiling? What do you think you, as a woman, or if a woman is watching, what do you think she can do to actually go about shattering the glass ceiling and heading into orbit?
I don't know. I mean, in the sense that I sometimes feel I've had it easy because I have a partner who is very understanding, and therefore I haven't had issues. But in my own newsroom, I have seen young reporters, young women reporters, who are so passionate about journalism. And one fine day they're married and they just go abroad, they go somewhere else, they do some other work. And I wish they'd stayed back. They would have done wonderfully well. So I really think, even today, there are so many women who just drop out of their jobs just because they got married. And it's a reality. And I'm talking about journalism, where day in and day out you are actually fighting for someone else's right. And when it comes to your own story, you are just moving away after your wedding. So I feel for every person, it is important to priority your priority. Your work has to be a priority. And you have to convey that to your family, whether it's your father, it's your husband, it's your boyfriend, whoever it is, and ensure that you somehow push in your priority, right? Like even with my son, I have to continuously do that.
Yeah. And Swarna, what do you think needs to be done apart from prioritizing yourself? What do you think women can do to not just be represented or make a mark at the entry level, but to go up and shatter the glass ceiling?
So, like I said, first, fear to dream big, right? Your dreams should excite you and scare you at the same time. That is one. Number two is, I think we should stick on with the conviction. See, even my mother, when my child was young, she said that she had the fear that if I go behind my profession too much, I would leave my family life. My own mother, and she's the wife of an industrialist, right? So these things are always there. These, the social norms are always there. But then, if you want something, you have to go behind it. Nobody else will do it for you. It is your life. You have to go behind it.
All right. Ensure you go behind it. Is there something you'd like to add, Preeta?
Yes, apart from what the other two speakers mentioned, I would say invest in good education. Like, see what it takes to move on to the next level. Learn, unlearn, relearn. And also talk to others about genuine feedback and see where you lack, work on yourself. And what else? I think that's pretty much it.
Back, working on yourself.
Relearn.
ensuring-
Oh, and also you could volunteer for things that are outside your scope. Show that you're capable of doing more, and working on those kind of projects would probably give the higher authorities impression that you can take on more, and they'll keep you in mind when they think of bigger endeavors.
All right. Relearn, reskilling.
No, that's a very. I always say learn and unlearn.
Yeah.
But I'm going to relearn also from here. Yeah.
So there is, of course, scope to reskill, to go about updating yourself with knowledge as a tool to get up there.
Oh, I don't know how she meant it, but that's how I took it.
Okay, all right. Okay, relearning. A refresher course or two always helps. I'm going to also open the floor for questions. If you could maybe put your hand up. If you have something to ask, please feel free to shout it out. I'll paraphrase and we can get some answers up and quick. But in the meanwhile, and while you think of your questions, I'm going to quickly get some more insights from these lovely ladies we have here today. Do you think a lot of success for women at the workplace also depends on appearances? There's been so much talk about power dressing, right? I remember during the Hillary Clinton campaign, there was so much that was spoken of about how a woman in a pantsuit always created an impression, could go up against the men. Do you think that power dressing plays a crucial role as an entrepreneur? Let me start maybe with you, Danya.
Wrong question to the wrong person, and I will definitely give the wrong answer. So maybe they should speak first.
Okay, all right. Let's hear what Swarna has to say before we move on.
See, power dressing, according to me, is not mimic how a man will dress, right?
Okay.
For me, power dressing is all about elegance. And it's about dressing suitably for the occasion and dressing like you really care.
But does it matter, more importantly?
I don't think, Judith, because see, when I see a person for the first time, I probably make a judgment of them in the first 10 seconds, even before they open their mouth, right? And somebody else is going to do the same for me. So it's not just others, I do the same. So how you dress up, how you portray yourself with confidence and what you wear is important. But I don't believe in, mimicking the male version of dressing. No, I don't
Okay.
believe in that. But I believe in dressing up well for the occasion.
Okay, and Preetha, what about you? What do you think?
Yes, definitely. First impression is the best impression, and it doesn't have to be mimicking a man's way, but it could just be what exudes confidence and a sense of authority. In my case, because initially when I started work, I used to wear formals. And like blazers just to look all big and formidable, but after that I found my own style and I realized that I don't have to do that, and I've already gained the respect of the people around me, so I can settle it down. But power dressing for me is when I'm dressed in proper work clothes, psychologically it sets me in that mood to work, as opposed to wearing normal clothes or pajamas, how that kind of puts me to bed. So when I am psychologically prepared, I can focus more on my work and be more productive.
Yeah. And I think dressing well should apply to both genders, ideally, but it just so happens that the spotlight ends up coming on what a woman wears and what she ought to, what she not to. Wouldn't you agree?
No, I'm wondering if this panel had 3 men, would we be asking them the question that, do you do power dressing, right?
And the question comes because of
Because
the
we
fact
should
that-
stop asking that question.
Right.
I mean, this is I understand where you're coming from. For example, Hillary Clinton's campaign.
Absolutely.
There was a lot of talk about power dressing, but I'm saying we have to flip that whole notion, that whole vision.
and
Okay,
keep
fine.
it out of the discourse.
And see, for example, what she said, what both of them said, what you feel comfortable in. In fact, I was joking to them today that a lot of people were staring at my feet. I thought, are people assuming that I'm not wearing a pant, a legging? So, but I'm a journalist. There are times when I've dressed up for others, thinking that if I have seen a burqa that's on air and thought I will buy kurtas like her and wear. And then I found out it's not affordable for me at that stage, right? Now I can afford it, but then I don't want to dress like that anymore. So everybody evolves. But it's just what you feel comfortable
What you
in
want to, yeah.
and what you want to do. And I don't think wearing a dress to please someone else or to exude power will give you any extra benefit if you do not have the talent to back it up,
Right.
or if you don't have the will or the passion to back it up. And yes, you have to ask the question next time you have a panel of 3 men.
All right, absolutely. I will ask them what their tips are and hopefully take some from them as well. Do we have questions that I can toss to each of these ladies here? If not, I'm going to quickly move on to our next focus on the agenda. I don't think we have questions just as yet. Okay, we do have. Yes, ma'am. Would you like to shout it out, or can I toss the mic over maybe? Yeah. Thank you so much.
Hi.
Hi, Priyanka.
Yeah. How do you deal with your fear and doubt for new ideas?
Fear and doubt of new
Yeah,
ideas.
Yeah, yeah.
Priyanka, I think when we start out as entrepreneurs, everything is new, and you wouldn't know the answer for every small thing, and there are always risks in business, right? But you apply your mind, and if you have the luxury of bringing in somebody else's experience, and then you take a decision, and you take a decision, you apply common sense, take a decision, and then you stand by it. Whether it's right or wrong, it's fine. Now, a person cannot keep taking only right decisions all their life. Even the biggest, who you call the successful people. Every industry, I'm sure Danya has her inspirations, and Preetha has her inspiration, and I am an inspiration. My biggest inspiration is my father, but he has made some mistakes as well in business. It's okay to make mistakes. You just tell yourself that. So don't have the fear of making mistakes. Just go by what feels right, and sometimes mistakes are biggest lessons that you can have experience, right? So go ahead, make mistakes happily. You'll be fine.
Yes, and learn from them as well. Do we have any more questions from the audience? Yes, the lady in the back, please.
Hi, ma'am. Good evening. This is Shweta, interior designer. So, my question is, how do you manage time between family and your business?
Maybe we let Danya take that. How do you manage time between family and business? Since Varna already answered the first question.
I don't. How do I manage? See, I'm saying that my role in the family is very limited in the sense that I have 4 cats and 1 dog. So I do spend a lot of time with them. My human child doesn't need me much anymore because he's 12 years old. How do I spend my time? See, first thing, I think when I'm a journalist, right, I can't allocate time for but I guess when you have office hours, you can do that a little bit more. But for me, suddenly something will happen and I can't be allocating time. So whenever I'm there, I spend quality time. I can't allocate time, but I'm sure it works differently for people in different industries.
All right. So it's all about the quality and not so much about the quantity at the end of the day. Anybody else with questions? No? Okay. In that case, I'm going to quickly move on. Ladies, in conclusion, I think the one defining question that most women entrepreneurs or even entrepreneurs in general would want to know more about, how do you stand up, make your presence felt, announce that you've arrived, and be counted as a woman? What is the way to go about doing that? Let me start with you, Preeta.
I think women should learn to start using phrases like "I'm not done talking yet" when they're interrupted. This happens a lot, all the time, everywhere. And it's happened to me as well. Even though those are all employees working under me, I often get interrupted because. So it's important to start saying phrases like "I'm not done talking yet," "no," and put your foot down and stand up for yourself. And also, initially, oops, there's a fire. Okay, no.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Not as yet.
Yeah.
Tell the alarm, I'm not done yet.
Yes.
There's actually a fire alarm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we evacuate or do we? It's fine? Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Tensions
How
building up.
ironic that just when you spoke about not being interrupted.
I'm sure some man would have triggered that alarm.
Yeah. Someone took the wrong exit perhaps.
Yeah.
Shortcut to the car park. Let me go.
Yeah, and sometimes initially I was phrasing sentences like "I think we should do this,"
Right.
but now I say "let's do this" or "we should do this." That element of self-doubt kind of makes you form weaker sentences, and I think as women we should stop using that and be more affirmative in our words.
Being more affirmative and decisive, is that a good place to start? And do you think there's more that women can do to stand up and be counted, Swarna?
See, it is believed, right? If you have to be a successful leader, you have to be cutthroat, you have to be aggressive. But actually, no, it's not necessary. If you are confident about what you are and what you're talking, you convey that message. And I think women make better leaders because I think emotional intelligence is more. But when you're dealing with men, sometimes you need to be tough and sometimes you need to be magnanimous. So this combination actually has worked wonders for me.
All right. And Danya, what do you think is the one secret sauce that women can add to standing up and being counted?
One is be competitive in the sense that I think people are very reticent about even being competitive. They feel like I shouldn't do it. Where I am, I should be happy and do my work perfectly well. No, look at 2 rungs above your ladder. It doesn't matter. Be competitive. And I think the older women, like for example me, I'm in my 40s, I have to constantly learn from younger women. For example, when I was 20, my boss, I worked in Times now for 8 years.
So we all know who your boss was.
Yeah, exactly. So I was told that work 24/7, 365 days, and I diligently did it. I took 3-day leave for my own wedding. I mean, I somehow reached my own wedding, and I took pride in that. But today, the younger women who are with me tell me that that is not life. that is not life. In fact, they forced me to make it a 5-day week in a journalism, in a media organization. We have 5-day week. 2 days are off. So that's a lesson. I learned so many lessons from them. Some of them I discard, but some of them are very important. So I think we have to constantly learn from other women around us who have different experiences, because we cannot be putting, oh, in my generation, I did like this. So what? It may not be relevant today. So I think we have to keep learning what other people around us are feeling and thinking.
And also adding to that, I think you should speak up for those who can't speak up for themselves. So you have to be the voice for them as well. So in my organization, we have a lot of women employees, and sometimes they tend to be sidelined by men. So wherever I can, I try to, support them and kind of help them out in whatever ways I can.
Absolutely, and I think at the end of the day,
I think women should uplift each other.
Yeah, it behooves women to help each other out and ensure that workplaces, living spaces end up becoming more and more welcoming, and hoping that women actually go about making their presence felt. at the
But
end
if
of
you
the day.
go by our serials and television and movies, a woman is a woman's worst enemy. This is a stereotype which we have to kill every day.
Yeah.
We have to literally live with so many stereotypes. This one particularly irritates me.
Absolutely, and I think it behooves all the women out there to go about, help each other, support each other out. I can tell you that it's been an enriching experience learning from you ladies, getting insights from you, taking home some interesting tips, even as a man, some things that we can all include in our leadership journeys. So, Danya, Swarna, Preeta, thank you so very much for doing this. I greatly appreciate you turning up and talking to our women out there in terms of what they can do better. A huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
With that, it's a wrap, but let me also inform you that refreshments are available upstairs. So do join us for a bit of a snack, and happy shopping. It's a Saturday evening. I hope you have a good time. Thank you so very much. I believe as a token of appreciation, we have some. Okay. I believe we have something they'd like to hand over to you. There you go. Danya. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Shamni, for doing the honors and handing out these little tokens of appreciation.